I know this phrase will like raise a couple of hairs on your head. The customer is always right.
Oh, yeah. Okay. I've definitely talked about this one from time to time, for sure. Since kind of the Me Too movement happened, things have changed in the world a little bit when it comes to the amount of abuse that we're willing to tolerate. Even now, when I go to, say, like the DMV, you see signs posted up around that say, like, if you're abusive, that abuse will not be tolerated. Seriously, I see this now, in a lot of different places. And even when you call sometimes, like customer helplines for, bigger companies, they say like, please do not abuse our employees. And it's like, wow, like we have to put that as a disclaimer now because some people feel so entitled that they think that that's acceptable behavior. And I had said before that I wanted to talk about this, like bullying as a coping mechanism, right? And that people are using bullying as a way to deal with their pain. It manifests as abuse. It's really just about like controlling the situation, controlling others, getting away from our own pain. With the advent of social media and people hearing about these stories of people being abused and sharing them, it's really now just considered to be unacceptable. For me, because I grew up in that environment, my immediate response is to go to empathy. When I've had these abusive situations happen to me, I've just really empathized with their pain. And it's so sad. There may be 3 encounters in my life that I've had with people where I've felt like, wow, those people are so miserable. And you can palpably feel their misery. I'm an empathetic person. I think that serves me well in a lot of things that I do. But over the years, I've really had to try to understand, how do I insulate myself from this so that I don't take on their pain? And how do I protect myself? The best response or defense that I've come up with just for myself internally is learning that what I'm doing has value, knowing that I am a good person, I am valuable, I am worthy, and affirming these things to myself. And also knowing, hey, you know what? I have a lot of things to offer. And that mentally insulates me. They might kind of throw me off for a minute, but then I have to kind of come back to that. The thing that I'm still working on, and I wonder from you, Jean, how you've dealt with this, is verbally setting those boundaries with people. Like, how do you outwardly set those boundaries with people to insulate yourself?
You want to respond in a way that is not equally abusive. I just say to the person, this conversation is over. It's kind of abrupt. They get this like shocked look, but it's like the abuse is so bad that there's nothing I can really say at that moment. There wasn't really a compassionate way for me to bring it to an end. It's just like, I'm not going there with you.
And the thing is, the fact that people cannot cope with their pain should not be a punishment for you. It helps me contextually, mentally, like I say, to understand where they're coming from because it helps me understand that it's not about me.
Exactly right. I'm glad you put it like that because that is never my initial response. It's just that when it gets over the top, there's a certain apex.
Yeah. Like, you cannot abuse me. We all know that boundary. We all feel that boundary. I was working as a front desk agent at the time, like a customer service representative at the front desk of this hotel that was near my university. And I was in university. I was really young. I think I was, I don't know, 21, 22 at the time, something like that. And this gentleman came in and he was just like disgruntled from the beginning. And he was speaking really softly. And so I couldn't hear him or understand him very well. And I had to ask him to clarify his name like maybe 2 or 3 times. And he looks at me dead in the eye and he says, "Yeah, you're stupid, aren't you?" And I was like, whoa, like I was so taken aback. I was so shocked. I was like, like, I think I like nervously giggled. Like I was like, oh, okay, maybe. And then I just like stepped away and I was like, excuse me just a moment, and I went and I got my manager. My manager basically apologized. He didn't say, because I told him what happened. And he didn't say like, you know what, you can't abuse my employees. That's not acceptable behavior. He was just like, it's the customer is always right. Oh, here, sir. Oh, let me fix it for her, and let me make sure that you're happy and you're comfortable. He did not stand up for me, made me feel less than. Speaking up and being an advocate for somebody else that you see as being abused as well and being bullied. Like, if you are a boss and you're in charge of somebody and you see that person being abused, well, that is your responsibility. It is okay to say, no, we're not tolerant of that. And I think that is definitely more of like a modern thing. I'm the education director now for the Missouri Eating Disorders Association. So I talk to middle and high school students about eating disorders. But part of that presentation, we talk about coping mechanisms. Eating disorders, the behavior kind of begins as a coping mechanism. Their world is rocked when I'm like, well, did you know that people can actually bully people as a result of feeling pain and feeling all of these really negative emotions? These kids, especially, they don't always realize that because they just think like, well, there's something wrong with me. Understanding the motivation behind this behavior will really help future generations to understand that this is not about them. And also to understand maybe I should look at the things that I'm dealing with and look at my own behavior too, and realize that what I'm doing is harmful to other people. They might not even realize that.
That is so good. And I love your mindset. It is about the education. And then really the bully can only really change themselves. You can't really change them because they're so defensive about it sometimes. Like, oh, that's not me, it's you.
Right. I've gained more confidence as I've gotten older. That's really the thing. Because sometimes it just takes experience and time. When you're young, I think that's so hard. I remember when I first went into my first job out of college at a hotel, different hotel in St. Louis. It was actually the same company as the hotel that I worked for in Springfield, Missouri. They crushed my spirit because I had ideas, but I would come in the morning for like an hour. They would just sit there and talk about how wasted they got the night before and how they all went out and partied. And these were people who were probably in like their mid 30s, mid 40s at the time, had families and stuff. That's all they would talk about for half an hour to an hour every morning while I ran my reports, while I was doing my work. And I was like, these are grown people, but they would put me down, try to put me in my place. There's a fear there that somebody is going to do better or, replace them as well. It was so bizarre, but I didn't know at the time. I was so young that I thought, well, gosh, there must be something wrong with me. It just made me insecure and made me miserable and want to not be there. Well, apparently, P.S., they went through probably, I think they said like 4 or 5 more people in my position after I left and then decided to do away with the position altogether because obviously I wasn't the only one that was having issues. It just took me time to realize that, hey, you know what? I just might have been the square peg in the round hole. Maybe I just didn't fit in this place because my ideas were not valued. I wasn't valued. That doesn't mean that I don't have value. That means that I was not valued in that environment.
Right. From what I've seen many times too, the eager person who comes in like you, energetic and ready to roll, oftentimes is supporting the structure of the organization or the mission. Some of the folks that are there, they have gotten a little bit too relaxed. They forgot the mission. So sometimes you're doing creative things, but sometimes you're just doing what is the expected thing, and they don't want that either.
Yes, there's a certain amount of self-appreciation and understanding, and that sometimes comes with time and going through a bunch of different experiences to help kind of solidify your person and just say like, oh, hey, you know what? This is who I am. And I appreciate that about myself, that I have these things to contribute. It's so important to find environments that value you where you fit rather than you just trying to fit yourself into those environments. Job interviewing, I have several friends and family members right now who are on the job market looking. Like when you're going through those interviews and stuff, really like you need to question them. Is that an environment that you want to be in? They want you, but that you want to be in. Do their values align with yours? That's really important.
What I would have liked to have had is to have heard you when I was in my 20s. Why did I need to get into my late 30s to really grasp this thing? You get introduced early on, then you realize you don't need to become some secular contortionist.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. And I'm not saying like don't learn from other people because everybody has value. Everybody has things to contribute. I'm just saying learn to understand who you are and what you have to bring to the table. And then listen to what other people have to say. And if you feel like, you know what, that doesn't align with my values or that's not really something I want to follow. Look, I appreciate that, but I'm tossing part of this out. That's okay. We can learn from other people, but we don't have to take everything that others say as dogma either.
That's the drop the bomb statement right there. You just wrapped that up. Pretty cool.
Well, there you go. Hope it was helpful. Life lessons with Anna.